Hi, guys. Welcome to another episode of Industry Shift with me, your host, Vanessa James. I am so excited to talk to my next guest. I consider her a friend, an amazing colleague, and also a mentor, even though she probably doesn't know it. I just kind of made her one over the years. She's fabulous. Mrs. Jocelyn Coley. Now, some of you may have seen me talk about her because I work with her so often with her agency, which is the Allen-Lewis agency, which is she's the co-founder of, but she's just an all-around amazing entrepreneur that I know you guys are going to get a lot of nuggets of wisdom and gems from today. So without further ado, may I please welcome Mrs. Jocelyn Allen-Coley to the program. How are you?
Hi, I'm good. How are you, VJ?
I'm good. I'm doing really, really good. And I wanted to touch bases with you because I know that you had so much to share. I just feel like people could really resonate with your messages because you are a living, breathing entrepreneur thriving in Detroit. And, you've worked with so many amazing brands that I've followed and, throughout the years. And also that I've worked very closely with your agency, the Allen-Lewis agency. So it's so great to have you on. First and foremost, how you doing?
I'm good. I'm good. It's great to be here. It's great to see you. I'm doing well.
Awesome. Well, first and foremost, how is everything in Detroit? Because I know that you guys had Michigan was doing well, and I know the governor was getting some flack for being so strict, but it looks like it may have worked because your numbers are down. So how is Michigan doing as it relates to the pandemic and, of course, to COVID?
Well, Michigan and specifically my hometown of Detroit, we're some really resilient people. And we've seen some incredibly difficult days before. And clearly, we've had some really difficult days this year. But we're strong. And, when we have difficult days, we join together and we take care of one another. So my hope is that the worst is behind us and that we're on a path to recovery.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So Jocelyn, as an agency director and founder, how are you and your business shifting, and how have you shifted really since March when all of this happened? What's your new normal and day-to-day look like for the Allen-Lewis agency?
Oh, wow. So the new normal for me is I sit here in this seat for about...
Looking cute.
I try. I sit here in this seat for probably about anywhere from 10 to sometimes 15, 16 hours a day on a whole lot of Zoom calls.
Right.
For a lot of people, things really slowed down. But I will say, thankfully, for us, we never had a down moment. I think I've had since, March 1st, one vacation day, Saturdays and Sundays included. So we've been incredibly, incredibly busy, thankfully.
That's wonderful. What do you attribute that to, just in terms of agency life? Is it that brands and the people that you're working with are shifting as well and shifting their products to online in terms of an actual digital footprint? Or are you just seeing that they're wanting more? The one thing I am hearing from a lot of people is that they're working longer. So unfortunately, just like you mentioned, it's not uncommon to have a 10 to 12-hour day now.
Yeah. Well, I will say from a client perspective, absolutely, we're very blessed to work with some amazing clients, and all of them pretty quickly pivoted to this kind of new, virtual environment. But from an agency perspective, the biggest thing that kept us going was just our diversified portfolio of clients. Thankfully, we've got a number of folks in the auto industry, but we've also got other industries, and we have a couple of industries that through this pandemic have been really essential. We've got one client, if I'm allowed to give them a shout out, Green Path Financial Wellness, which is all about kind of helping people navigate through those, uneasy financial moments. And if you think about what happened to a lot of people this year and what's still happening to them is, they're really trying to figure out how they can continue to manage maybe on, not as much of an income as they once had, or things have changed for them financially. So that client has been incredibly busy, as they often are through this. And then another client we have, and when we first acquired this client, a lot of people were kind of like, what's going on? But one of our clients is a 100-year-old African-American funeral home. And
Right.
unfortunately, we know
He's
they've been
busier. Yeah.
incredibly busy. So, but the great thing about them is even through this, they found a way. They thought it was so important that they give back to the community. So as we've been going through this, they've created a couple initiatives to give back to frontline workers who are also, very impacted by this. So having just that kind of diversification, and again, my auto clients pivoted and found a way to keep doing things. But when you've got a couple clients who are really, really essential to what's going on today, that made a difference as well.
Absolutely. Well, it definitely seems like the clients are keeping you busy. Let's shift to travel for a minute. Something that you know all too well. I love all of your travel escapes. If it's through Michigan, which I didn't know Michigan had a beach, and I saw you at the beach last weekend. Okay. I know.
Porch Lake. Gotta
Yes,
come.
beautiful. But also, I know that you love the West Coast and Napa and all that. When's the last time that you were on a plane?
February 26th, 6 p.m. Eastern, but who's counting? Who remembers?
Who remembers? Who's counting?
Me.
I know it. You are famous for your curated press trips that are like detailed down to the welcome bag.
It's just the creative process of just starting with this blank canvas and then creating this experience, because that's what we like to say that we create for people are these experiences. So just that whole creative process of doing that and seeing that come to life. But then also, and I know it's so cliche, but I miss the people. I miss, just the one-on-one time with, and what I really miss is watching people experience this thing that I've brought to life and see, as exciting as it was in my head, does that really come to life for other people?
For them.
I so miss that.
I'm sure you do. So has that not gone virtual for you, or is that side of the business kind of on park for now?
Well, we've come up with some virtual events, and we're doing some really cool things. And what I do like, I love the challenge. So now for me, it's about how do I take what was this in-person, very personal, very exclusive experience, and how do I try to recreate that online? And so we have been doing a couple things. We did something with Nissan not that long ago called Club Kicks, where we were kind of building on that whole, DJs spinning records in their living room kind of idea, and we took it virtual. And we had, Nissan has a vehicle called Nissan Kicks, and they have one, this, called the Sound Machine. They only have 2 in the world, and so we took one of those, and we took an LA DJ, and we put her in a garage, and we did it all in a very socially distant, appropriate way, and we just let her DJ for an hour, and we brought that to lots of people. So just finding new ways to still connect with folks is what's really important.
Shifting topics, Jocelyn, I wanted to touch on diversity and inclusion, which I know obviously you're a huge champion of. With all of this has transpired in the BLM movement and, sparking protests around the country and the plight for social justice and dramatic reform, there are some shortfalls that happen at agencies, at brands that, if for whatever reason or another, it's just not a part of their looking glass in terms of their brand culture. What do you think needs to be done for there to be real change at brand and corporate levels, and at agency levels, who are the gatekeepers for a lot of their brands and their voices, right? What do you think really needs to be done for people to move from just having tokenism to really walking the walk and living inclusivity?
Well, there's a couple of things. I think first of all, it just starts with listening. And whether that's listening to your employees who may be diverse, whether they're listening to what's going on in the world, and then acknowledging that there really is an issue. And I think that's what we're really seeing right now in ways that we've never seen before. Because, for a lot of minorities, they're not saying anything new. But I think for the first time, people are really listening, and they're acknowledging that there is a problem and there's an issue. So I think, that same listening and acknowledging needs to happen in agencies and needs to happen in corporations. And then it really is about making a real commitment, not just lip service, but making a real commitment to what can I do in this part of my company, in this part of my agency, in this part of my department, in this this part of my world and my community that can really, really make a difference, and committing to that and holding yourself and holding others accountable to that as well.
Absolutely. Accountability. That's what it's all about.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
as we're continuing to shift and pivot forward, I do feel like some creators and small business entrepreneurs are finding it hard to have finding it hard to be motivated and inspired to continue to create and dream new things up. So some are either running with it and have like an abundance of ideas, and others are kind of like, I'm just going to take the summer off and see where we are in the fall and just recollect myself, which is great. There's no right and no wrong in this time. We're all living through an unprecedented pandemic, which, by the way, who would have thought that March 12th of 2020, right?
Right.
So what nuggets of wisdom and gems can you share and drop on, for our small biz entrepreneurs that are, really kind of finding it hard to be motivated in this time?
Well, I think what you said in the beginning was absolutely right. There's no one has a blueprint for this at all. So I think, feel what you need to feel. But I will say, if you're in a valley, you can't stay there too long. You got to get up and get moving. And as I've said to a couple of our clients, I've said this to some of my colleagues, now is the time to try new stuff. Like, I think if ever there was a time when people are forgiving of things, it's now. So, for instance, I mentioned the Club Kicks thing we did. I mean, that thing had the ability to go sideways so quick. And it was such a kind of out of the box thought, especially again, when you're dealing with, we're in this socially distant world, and we're talking about, putting on this event in a garage 3,000 miles away.
Right.
With no
what could go wrong?
Right. What could go wrong? And honestly, a couple things did go wrong. But I think people are really looking for authenticity more so than ever now.
Right.
So again, I think people's ability to forgive things is greater. So for those entrepreneurs who are, struggling, pull out those ideas you've been sitting on for a while that you were like, no, it'll never work, or I don't have the time. You got the time. You can make it work. Also, partnering and collaborating. Now's a great time to be doing that. There are so many solopreneurs out there. Partner up with someone. This is a perfect time to be doing that. Someone else may have a strength or some connections that maybe you don't have, but you bring something else to the table. Partner up with people. Again, you have every right to your moment in the valley, but it's time to get back on the mountaintop and get back to work.
Absolutely. I couldn't have said it better. Could not have said it better. So, Jocelyn, outside of your 12-hour days and your one weekend at the lake, and you're celebrating your birthday. By the way, happy birthday. Happy belated 50th. That's huge. What's Jocelyn doing to strike that balance and really practice self-care?
Well,
besides your fabulous wine.
Right. Well, moment. There's that. I'm still very much trying to socially distance myself. So, I've got this lovely deck with this lovely little pond out in the back. And so I like to, spend time out there. I found a lot of joy in my house. And, as we talked about, I was always on the road and always somewhere else. So I didn't get to spend a lot of time at home. So I've actually found a lot of joy just being here, spending time with my family. I'm still a newlywed. I joke all the time. My husband and I spent 3 months out of our first, year together so far, quarantined, and we still like each other. So, that's
a milestone for a lot of couples right now.
Yeah. Yeah, and it ain't working out for a lot of folks because they don't like each other. But luckily, we like each other, and so we played Uno and Connect Four and watched some really bad movies and some really good movies together. But it's just given us quality time to spend together. My mom just turned 95 and is doing well, and so I've had a lot more time to spend with her. I've stopped and actually called relatives to check in on them. I've called friends more than I've texted. So I've just found ways to really connect with people that I normally wouldn't, take the time to do because I was darting around and busying myself. So just connecting with people has been cool. And, just taking those moments to veg and and not feel bad about it. I think we're always, running through life, and it's like when you sit down for a minute, you're like, oh my God, there's something else I should be doing.
Right.
Well, no, maybe what you need to be doing is just sitting there for a moment and just, giving yourself a break. So I've found a couple moments every day when I get away from Zoom to be able to do that.
I definitely feel like it's a challenge I've had to work on, learning how to sit still and learning how to just close the computer. And now I'm like, oh, because I love a list. So I love carving through that list every day. And when it's done, I'm like, nope, I'll tackle that tomorrow. Now it's time for a beach walk or a walk or a glass of wine or whatever it may be.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, Jocelyn, exactly. And that's the biggest thing for me is has been learning how to take the guilt out of not getting things done and learning that, okay, tomorrow's another day and maybe I'll be inspired to somehow, add to it. Small biz burnout is real. It really is. Real. Yeah, absolutely. So thank you so much for sharing all of your amazing tips. Where can we stay connected to you, connected to your agency and your journey?
Sure. Well, the Allen-Lewis Agency is on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, and we're at Trytala, so Trytala, or you can just find us at the Allen-Lewis Agency on Facebook.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for carving out some space for me today, and it was awesome, and I can't wait to see you soon. And I have a feeling we'll be doing this again maybe in the fall, so I'm excited to have you back to see how even more you've pivoted and shifted through all of this.
I look forward to it. Thank you, VJ. You're wonderful.
Industry Shift with Vanessa James.